We continue our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. And now our next topic is a new wave of aggression against Crimean Tatars in the temporarily occupied Crimea. And our guest is Emil Kurbedinov, human rights activist, lawyer of Ilmi, Umerov, Mykola, Semena, in Hizb, ut-Tahrir and Crimean saboteurs cases, and Damir Minadirov, activist of the movement for protection of human rights. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to once again tell about what is going on in Crimea. In September this year, repressions against Crimean Tatars and civil activists, Ukrainians, repressions in Crimea continue and strengthen. And this September was really rich in sentences, and Artem Chigos got 8 years of sentence. Nikolai Semena, for his articles and his expressions, was sentenced to a suspended sentence, but he cannot now work as a journalist for 3 years. Umerov, the veteran of national movement, got 2 years in the camp. And the story about Rinat Varlamov, Crimean Tatar, who was tortured. He was taken from his home by security services, and then he was found with the signs of torture at one of the stations in Simferopol. The story is only beginning. Renat filed a claim, and now there is an investigation in this case. In October, October started with massive searches, and the day before yesterday, some searches were carried out in houses of Crimean Tatars, and in the result 6 people were detained, and they are charged with the participation of Hizb ut-Tahrir, and Russia now believe that this is a terror organization. And this day 10 people were detained, those who tried to videotape the searches, how these detentions are made. So these people were brought to police station in Bakhchisarai, and administrative protocols were made, and 15,000 fine was imposed. So maybe you know what terrorism means. Terrorism is terror. This is crime against people in some with some political aim. And here, Russia believed that these peaceful residents are terrorists, and now Russia carry out it for political reasons. So who are those terrorists in reality? Russia found a way how to nominate these terrorists through the court, and they believe that terror organizations, they are just named by courts, not by investigations, not according to facts of committed crimes. And we provide assessment of actions of Russia concerning those facts that we observe. The assessment of Russian power concerning the human rights violations they committed, and this is our verdict as people: how to characterize abduction of people and illegal searches, tortures, and so on. And here we may see clearly whose activity is really terroristic. And yesterday there were court hearings in these cases of people who were detained, 6 people, and they established their sentences, and 300 people came to support them. Police officers came there, and special forces, OMON came, and also gas service vehicle was there, evacuator cars. So, and about 300 people, they gathered, and they waited for the decision of the court, and in this decision, the court was, and for 2 months, these people were arrested yesterday. I would like to say that those people who were arrested yesterday were the activists of Crimean Solidarity, those who helped the families of the victims, those who organized streams, produced some video clips. So in this respect, Russia continued to punish those who do not agree with what is going on in the territory of Crimea. They continue to prosecute them. So here with me is the resident of Crimea, and he saw those searches and those interrogations that are made by special forces in the territory of Crimea. Good afternoon. Yes, on the 11th of October 2016, there was a search in my in my house, and 6 people this day were detained. We were involved in human rights activities. We recorded violations committed by Russia, and they tried to verify how the society will respond to their actions. And Mykola was the attempted abduction, and they tried to say that he attacked law enforcers, and we felt that we were followed, and that why our telephones were tapped. So then they came in our houses and they searched for some illegal things and weapons. They didn't find anything, and they brought us to FSB facility in Yalta. And then those events that happened to me, we cannot compare it with Kapatov, but there was putting a bag on my head, and they tried to beat me, to psychologically pressure me, and they tried to force me to blame my colleagues and to provide false evidence against people who are socially active, who are clear before the law, but Russian Federation don't like them. So I came here, and I decided to highlight these events in order that people remember about this, and that it should be in the framework of law. And there are a lot of positive aspects in the story. Me and my colleagues, we see that the society that in Crimea, they get more and more united. And the examples of this Crimean Solidarity, this is holding Crimean Marathon to collect money for administrative fines. And these are the relatives, wives and children, mothers of those who were sentenced, and there is a great impulse to society, and everyone can visit, attend the events that are held monthly, and they draw attention of the special forces. And Damir Minadirov is here in this hall at the movement on human rights. He represents the families of those who were detained, and he helped those who come here. And I would like to give him 1 minute to speak. Good afternoon, Emil Kurbedinov. I went from Crimea when annexation happened. There were threats concerning human rights organizations, and we went to the mainland Ukraine. What I want to say about the problems that were voiced by the families of those who were detained. This is the list of 6 questions And I can say that the status of political prison, according to Ukrainian legislation, the status is not defined. So these people, while being in the occupied territories, what rights do they have? What support do they have from Ukraine? Second, about legislative initiatives that are adopted in this area concerning political prisoners. This topic was voiced on OSCE forum, where they discussed world topics concerning human rights, including they actively discussed the topic of Crimea. And one more argument I would like to voice is the position of Ukraine concerning the list of extremist organizations and terror organizations that were adopted by the High Court of Russian Federation that provide the grounds for these massive repressions. For example, the reason to persecute those who participate in Hizb, ut-Tahrir, and in other organizations. So there are Nurchilar organization, and they identify them in the list of the organizations, and the position of special service and experts should say their word concerning this list, and Ukraine should have clear position whether they support this list. Do they believe these organizations, or whether there is some grounds for persecutions, whether these persecutions are grounded? And I believe that time has come to identify this. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you, Enver. If you have questions, I will be pleased to answer. Please introduce yourself first and ask questions. Aterk news outlet. And what about the repressions that got reinforced recently? Because before this, we didn't have such detentions, such as 15 people were detained. So the latest Jihad, this was the response to the resolution of the European Parliament and UNO resolution. Russian power tries to find Crimean Tatars. They want to pressure them and to force them to sign some papers that they say that they are the members of some organization, and then they want to present these papers to the world community, and they want to say that we do not fight against Tatars. These people really said that they are really terrorists, so we fight extremism here, and they want to say that they are really sorry, that they do, and Crimean solidarity. It enlarged, so 10, 15 people, and the last trials that happened yesterday have shown that more and more people come to support these, to support people who were detained, and there were 300 people who came to support yesterday. For Russia, this is a checkmate situation, and here I see that the actions and civil position and civil activists, we have more of them now, and Russia tries to enlarge their pressure. So that is what we see from inside. Ukraine TV channel, Victoria Potapova. Emil, tell us please about appeals in Chaygoz and Umerov's cases. I know that they were filed. What about the prospects for these cases? And about, could you sum up how many Tatars were repressed? Something about statistics in this matter. About appeals. So we undergo these stages in all criminal cases. We need this in order to go to the European Human Rights Court and then to other international institutions. We do not have hope for these second and fourth level instances. So we know that this charge will stay in place. No one will objectively deal with these cases. But we should undergo this in order to appeal to international institutions, including European Court on Human Rights. So we have tens of cases. Ut-Tahrir. So there are more than 20 people, tens of Ukrainian activists who are believed by Russia to be saboteurs. So, and at the start of the year, also I am also included there. So, also the people were detained and they spent in prison up to 15 days. So there is a systemic work of the power in Crimea. Dear colleagues, do we have other questions? One more question. Today you came to Kiev. Maybe you've met with the representatives of Ukrainian power. What do you lack now as human rights activists? Can you name this? Maybe you negotiated on some legislative initiatives. Maybe you want to discuss the issue of Crimea in the law of reintegration of occupied territories, or maybe there should be a separate draft law on this. What do you want? What lacks? And do you have some draft documents? So, as a lawyer, I see two main aspects. The first, Emil Kurbedinov mentioned, the status of political prisoners, the status of families of political prisoners, that it should be more clear. It should be on the paper, in laws, in orders, and if it is identified. So it will give a lot of positive results and will give instruments to lawyers and human rights activists, and also to those people who are in Crimea. And also, there should be more transparent work of Ukraine concerning the lists of political prisoners, whether there is negotiation of this. Do we have a platform for negotiations about Crimea, and people who are from Ukraine, from Kiev, those who are in Crimea? We tell people about the situation, but there is no a single platform where people can gather and discuss and come to some conclusions. We lack this platform. So there should be such a platform concerning Crimea, and there should be people who can influence, who can take decisions. So these are two aspects would really help in our work, both in Crimea and outside. Do you have other questions? If there are no, maybe you have final remarks. So I described what is going on there in recent times. This is overall situation. We can speak a lot about it, because people are persecuted, and how these courts are held, that people are not allowed to come and hear the case, and people are threatened, those who try to enter the courtroom. So I would like to say that once again I see that civil society in Crimea holds grounds, and it peacefully fights for its rights. So this is the end of press briefing. Thank you.